to change the conversation and change your results, maybe even change your life. It's time for Finding Easier. Here's your host, Chris Westfall.
Wow, it worked. Hey everyone, welcome to the conversation. Welcome to Finding Easier. It seems like, and tell me if this is true for you, it seems like the number one thing that we're all looking for is an easier way. Even or maybe especially when life isn't easy. And today we're going to be talking about how to access something called the self-care mindset. And my guest is one of the foremost experts in the world, an internationally recognized keynote speaker who's spoken to the United Nations and has a long list of clients that she's worked with. Today, she's going to be sharing ideas with you around her new book. And we come together in this conversation in a spirit of service. We are here for you, to help you to access the things that you need so that finding easier isn't just a concept or a logo over my head. It's something that you can access anytime and even in the midst of difficulty. And that conversation starts with an understanding of self-care. Let me share this video with you, and so you can meet my next guest, Jeanette Bronée. How do you show up at your best? My guest today is none other than Jeanette Bronée. She is an internationally recognized speaker and the author of the Self-Care Mindset. She helps companies and individuals all around the world to access new ideas around how you show up so that becoming who you were meant to be is easier than ever before. Find out how to harness the human advantage and the self-care mindset. Today's episode of Finding Easier. Please join me in welcoming my friend and someone who is here to make a difference for you. And I say that because I know that she always makes a difference for me. Welcome to the show, Jeanette Bronée. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Thank you very much. I am great. I feel like it's like a birthday today because the book is out and it's, like it feels like a big thing. So I'm like a little kid, like, yay.
Well, it is a big thing. And so tell us a little bit about the self-care mindset. And let me be more specific. It's like, is this your first interview? Are you going to ask enormously general questions? No, I'm not. Where did the self-care mindset come from, and what inspired you to write this book?
The self-care mindset is really something that I have been working with for many, many years. I was between being a coach for 18 years, working with people one-on-one, and they came to me to try to, what I call, survive work better. And one of the things I always talked about, how we can take better care of ourselves, and then, trying to figure out how to make that work in the workplace. But people would go back to work, things would fall apart as things do, and they would come back 2 weeks later and they would feel like couldn't do it because we focus so much on the habits that we're supposed to do. And I think that's a bit of a trap, actually, because what comes first is the mindset. It comes before the habits. And so that's one part of it, right? So that's part of my work for a long time. But this book now is really coming to the culmination of both my work and the situation we're in the world, where we are facing what I call the FUD. We're facing the FUD, or we need to face the FUD, because the fear, uncertainty, and doubt is like everywhere. Anxiety is on the rise, stress is on the rise, burnout is on the rise, all of these things are on the rise. And it feels as if we're just waiting for a break so that we can recover. And I felt like we can't keep doing that. We need to figure out how to make this work every single day, even when the FUD is hitting the fan.
Helping people to rise above their circumstances. That's really what I mean. That's what I think is so encouraging about your work, is in the midst of the mess, there's a way to show up so that we don't repeat. You said habits, patterns. One of the ways that that I find a real pattern interrupt, and maybe you find this too, and this is going to probably sound a little bit crazy, but it's through animals. And I know that you have behind you there one of my favorite animals, and that's Maya, the Rottweiler girl.
Yes.
Can we see Maya
Hey,
back
Maya,
there?
come here.
Is she?
Maya,
Oh,
come
did
here.
she disappear?
She disappeared. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on, Maya. No, not that way. You're gonna. She's
Well,
going
Maya,
around.
girl.
Hey, Maya.
Well, while she wrangles Maya,
Maya.
Maya is the most beautiful Rottweiler dog that you've ever seen,
She
and she's
decided to come
absolutely
out this way
adorable.
instead. So she's gonna now tilt the whole thing down. Come on, get out.
See, I think
There
this
she is.
is why W.C. Fields said, "I'm never going to work with dogs or children because of this exact scenario."
She's about to like tear down the whole studio.
Hey, how much does Maya weigh? How big is Maya?
Maya is 85 pounds, so about. And hi, Maya. There you go. Hi.
Oh, there she is. Let's
Yes.
come in and see. Yeah, so there she is.
So,
How sweet.
She's like 85 pounds. She's a Rottweiler with 10% Husky, and that 10% Husky is interestingly different than all my other Rottweilers have ever been. And so the nuances of the personality. So when you're saying working with animals, I actually think that my first Rottweiler taught me a lot about self.
Really? How so? With the lessons from a Rottweiler? I'm very curious.
Lessons from a Rottweiler. You did not know you were in for that today. So, she was this little dainty. She was very tiny. She was extra small. And she was so kind and so loving. She was kind of like a service dog. She would go with me to the office, and she would sit by people if she felt that they needed care and support. And when she felt that they were okay, she would go sit by the door. And it was so interesting because she would basically like share the work with me, right? And she had this very calm presence. Like there was nothing that could shake her. But if she needed to be firm and stern, she would be. But she wouldn't say anything. She wouldn't even growl. She would just stand there and look at you. Like, you can't rock my boat. And I thought, that's self-care right there.
So say more about that. So what you learned from self-care is being resolute in yourself, but empathizing with others. Is that what? Okay.
Yes. There was this nuance between being gentle and firm. And so I thought, there's a lot. And so she was part of my many, many years of coaching, right? And I would observe her. I would observe my clients. I would observe myself. And I was learning about myself as I was a coach because I'd left the fashion business, changed my life. My parents both died of cancer a year apart. I was told I was next. So I was like, all right, something's got to change. And that's now, 20 years now that I have changed my life, basically. And so it's a bit interesting that the book comes out on the 20-year anniversary of me saying, all right, I'm changing my life. I'm not doing this anymore.
So this is 20 years right now of the transition, the transformation.
Yes.
And here's a book that, well, it is about your journey, but it's really about helping others on their journey. And one of the key themes, and I want to bring this up because I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about it. One of the key themes is about being right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, very curious. And that's why I kind of wanted to talk about Maya a little bit, because one thing that I know about dogs, and every dog that I've ever met, the time for the dog is always right now. Mm-hmm. It's always right now.
Yeah.
And that's true for my cat too, but he's a bit of a whiner, and I don't want to bring him into this conversation. So he's needy. He's got a lot of needs. I don't know what they are. They're not snacks. They're not food, because he ignores it, and they're not toys. Anyway, this isn't about my burdens, Jeanette. I don't mean to bring that into the conversation. But if you could say a little bit more about why now is such an important question, and how that has shown up for you in your life and the challenges that you've faced, because I think some of the things that you've had to overcome can help others to do the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting because I didn't actually think of this until I realized that my book launch being today and the 20-year anniversary for my dad's passing is tomorrow. And so I thought, wow, what a gift to this journey that I've been on because of losing my parents. And I basically actually, you can indirectly say I do this work because of that. I found myself through this work and through losing my parents. And why now really is because I think so many people are saying, listen, I can't keep doing this. And when I mean doing this, it means going to work every day, working hard, thinking that we just have to get through this one, then we just have to get through this one, then we just have to get through this one, and then we just have to get through this one. Then we will have time for ourselves. And that's not how work and life works, if you can call it that. Like that's not how it goes, right? Because there's always something. And so, I thought the book really is about tools that helps us navigate the challenges and work with our mindset, work with how we pay attention, how we navigate what's going on by what we're paying attention to, asking ourselves better questions so that we can engage better with ourselves in a way that's kind and firm, but kind of creates the results we're hoping to create. And then also, how do we make better decisions? So the book is in 3 pieces: the think, engage, and act. And so that's part of the way I have come to see that if we can think better with more clarity, if we can engage with more curiosity, we can also make decisions with more courage and confidence.
Sometimes that's tough when times are tough.
It's always tough.
And yeah, it is. And in the midst of difficulty, I mean, and you have a number of strategies that help people to step into powerful pauses.
Yes.
And I know that that's one of the things that you talk about in your keynote, and those are ideas that you've shared with the United Nations and TOMS and IBM and all the folks that you've worked with over the years. But can you say more about powerful pauses, particularly as it relates to being in that place where you feel like your back's up against the wall, maybe in a place of grief or loss, maybe in a place where you're just Trevor in accounting is making you crazy, whatever the case may be. How do we find time
Yeah.
to take care of ourselves when we feel like we're being pulled in so many different directions?
I'm glad you're asking the question in that way, because I actually don't think of it as taking time out. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point. We are so trapped in this idea that self-care takes time and that it costs money as well. There's a sense of like, it's almost like it's a privilege when we have self-care days. And that's really, that kind of gets us stuck in not actually taking care of ourselves. And so the mindset, the self-care mindset comes about because it's really a relationship we have with ourselves. It doesn't cost money. It doesn't cost time. It's there all the time. And what that relationship is like is part of the inner dialogue, the conversation we have with ourselves that shows up in the conversation we have with others. And I can dig more into that, but right now I just wanted to pause there for a moment and say, yes, there's also that part of the pause, the power pausing, as I call it, is that moment, not where we are taking time out to go somewhere and hang out or chill or have a cup of tea. Maybe it is a moment to disconnect, but it doesn't have to be. The power pause can also be that moment where we just check in and be like, wait a minute, am I reacting right now based on fear, uncertainty, and doubt, anxiety? Am I just being reactive? Interestingly enough, learning from animals how they go by instinct, right? So do we. And so this idea that we're just reacting rather than pausing for a moment saying, what am I trying to achieve here? And how am I actually going to get there? What are the choices I need to make? That doesn't take us more time. Actually, it probably saves us time, because I think we can all agree that we've been reactive and then have to backtrack and fix the problems because we didn't pay attention.
How do you balance that out, though, Jeanette, between being in your life and stepping back and being aware of the thinking that's going around and making things difficult? I mean, can you share some ideas, maybe some tactics and tips that would help to create that kind of environment? Because what you're talking about, the self-care mindset, it's not just a point in time. It's not just about going for a massage or having a cup of tea
Not
or
at all.
something like that, right? It's a consistent kind of thing. So where do How can people access that consistency when we're busy living our lives to take that pause? What do you what shows up for you there?
Well, I think the important thing is to realize that our mindset is active all the time, right? Our mind is always active. We're always thinking. We're always asking questions. And so the nature of those questions are very often, why isn't this working? Why am I not able to do this? Why is this not? Why is that not? And we become why notters. Yeah, engage with each other like that too. And so one of the things I talk about is how the power pause is that one moment, that just small moment in time. It could be just a minute, where we can just exhale for a moment and allow the nervous system to calm down, where we actually start to breathe again. I don't know if you notice that when we are in our lives and things are hectic, we stop breathing. And we just we tighten up, we tighten up, we tighten up. And so we can just, wait a minute, I'm so tight right now. Let me just exhale for a moment. And you can actually almost feel how your whole system calms down. It doesn't even take a minute.
Wow.
Right? But you need your mind to come along with you. So it's almost like you're bringing your mind back into your body, down through your body and into your feet, and you ground yourself again. And just landing, I call it coming back home. Just landing that way, it takes but a minute, a moment to get our nervous system out of survival mode. But it is the recognition that our mind is spinning. And it's spinning in that what's not working, what's not working, what's not working. I call that the pothole. And so we're in that pothole. We're stuck in that pothole. We're constantly looking for what's not working because we're in fear. We're running in fear. We're running on survival mode. And we're reactive. And it's just it's the human trap, right? We think that it's about work, but it's really about being human. Work does make us stressed, yes, but life does too. Like, we are not going to avoid stress in this life unless we completely, move to an island, sit on a pillow, drink tea all day and get massages. Sure, we can do that. But we still have to stop.
Where is that life? Where is that? Right. Yeah. How do we find that?
Even with that life, you still have to stop worrying.
Easy to say, hard to do.
Yes.
Just stop worrying. I
we can't just stop worrying. That's the point. That's the point of the self-care mindset, is to start looking at how do we work with worry in a way, because we can't just stop worrying. That's not how it works.
I had an interesting conversation. I work with a coach who's made a tremendous difference in my life. And sometimes people are surprised to hear that when I say, yeah, I work with a coach, because they're like, well, Chris, you are a coach and stuff. And I know that you are a coach as well. And you not only coach companies on accessing the self-care mindset, but also individuals as well, helping to create transformation in their lives. But anyway, I'm having a conversation with my coach, and I'm talking to her, just kind of expressing, because coaching is a conversation, right? And I'm just sort of expressing some of the things that I'm frustrated with. And she stops me and she says, Chris, it's like you're playing a game of not it.
Yeah.
And I go, what do you mean? And she's like, well, you're saying, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I'm like going, there's a pothole here, pothole. This is the pothole that I'm stuck in, pothole. And she's like, how about you get on the road towards the things that you do want? How about you quit playing a game of not it? What is it that's out there that you can say yes to? And I went, well, I'll start with that idea. Thank you very much. Let me say yes to that. What do you take from that, Jeanette? I mean, that idea of stepping into the things that we want instead of falling into the potholes that we don't.
Yeah, I actually think I think that a lot of people may know what they want per se, and like wishing, for something. I think there's a couple of things in that. One is that I think a lot of people are struggling to find purpose, to know what they want, to actually feel that inspiration. So it's a little easier said than done to be like, just what do you want kind of thing. I think it's the small steps on the way, navigating the daily problems and challenges. I agree that knowing where you're going and what it is you want, what it is you're trying to achieve is important. I think we can get confused about where does it mean that passion and purpose lies. And I talk about that as, if we can focus on what we care about, the simple little things we care about, and then how it starts adding up to what we care about, then we're starting to bring it into our daily lives. the passion and the purpose can be, it doesn't have to be these big ideals and these big things. So one of the things I teach is to pause for that moment and say, hey, what do I need so that I can, whatever the challenge is right now. And sometimes that is.
Can you say that again? What is it that I need? Say that again. I want to slow that down because that's important, I think.
Yeah. So I say, when you're in that pothole, what do I need so that I can get over there, for example? Like, I need to get over there. I'm trying to solve that problem over there. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times what happens is we're solving the wrong problem. We're solving the pothole problem, as I call it. And so that's, for example, the knot worry. That's the knots, right? We're solving the knots.
So that pause can help us to see the positive, not from a standpoint of positivity, but just, I think you're talking about possibility more than positivity, right? New options?
Yes. I'm talking about looking from what's the problem to what's possible. And so saying, okay, well, this is what I'm trying to achieve over here. So for example, let's take a real life example.
Okay.
So let's say that I have a book launch, right?
This sounds vaguely familiar. I think. Yes, it's today. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Let's say I have a book launch, and let's say I'm really nervous about it. Let's say I'm really nervous about people reading my book. Right. So if that was the case, I would try to calm myself down. I would try to tell myself to be confident. I would try to tell myself all these things I should feel. Instead, solving the real problem is, I care about my book. I hope people will like it. How do I share it? How do I get it out so that people can get their hands on my book, read it, learn from it, whatever, right? And so me solving the problem on my own nervousness isn't really going to do anything. And I will also say I'm not that nervous. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm super excited. So it's not like I haven't been not sleeping because I'm scared. I'm not. I'm really excited. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a consciousness that says, I wonder what people would think of it. So if I can move from the pothole of, oh my God, I wonder what people are going to think of it, to, I wonder what people are going to think of it. So there's a nuance there that says, how can I find out? How can I communicate with people? How can I learn from the people that are reading it, and so on and so forth? And so if that's really the intent that I'm trying to solve, the problem I'm trying to solve in the world is give people tools to take better care of themselves at work while they're busy under stress. That's my real goal. That's the real problem I'm trying to solve. Right? I could get stuck in that pothole of me.
But it's a shift. It's a shift towards sharing your voice and getting your ideas out there into the world. If you've just joined us, I'm talking with Jeanette Bronée. She is the author of The Self-Care Mindset. It launches today from Wiley. It is available wherever books are sold. And that means that online website that everybody knows, Amazon.com or wherever you'd like to find it.
Barnes & Noble.
BarnesandNoble.com, that's right.
Not to forget those. And
I'm sure 800 CEO reads all those good sites and everything. But the important thing is that whatever it is you're facing, it doesn't have to be like this.
Right.
And that's not to say that we have a magic wand here in this conversation where we can, by the way, this is my magic wand. I don't know if it's actually made of markers. But we don't have a magic wand to change your circumstances, but there is a way for you to change how you show up in those circumstances. And by being kind to yourself, you step into my understanding of the self-care mindset. And Jeanette, if I can, I'd like to ask you, can you share a little bit about why your clients come to you? I mean, you've got a pristine list of Fortune 500 companies, organizations, the United Nations. I just love that credit. You've even given a TED Talk in Brazil, for heaven's sake. I mean, you've done some amazing things, creating an incredible difference through your words and your ideas. When clients come to you, what is it that they are looking for, and what are some of the outcomes that you've created for the organizations that hire you?
I think what they're really looking for is saying, how do we survive this? How do we navigate this and not fall prey to the pothole? Basically, they don't say that, but that's indirectly what they're saying is we're struggling against the current when we really want to flow with the river, right? And so what I normally hear from them is, oh, people are burning out, we're losing people, so on and so forth, right? It's really that retention, engagement. People are tired, and we need to, as a company, continue to focus on growth, continue to focus on innovation, continue on serving our clients. We need to focus on what it is we need to do, which is solving the right problem, right? But if we're trying to solve the problem, so this is where the paradox comes in, because we're trying to create change, growth, innovation, serve our clients. That's what we're focusing on.
Right.
And normally we just focus on that.
Right.
And we burn out because we're so focused on that. What I'm saying is, if we can be more inclusive of who we are as human beings and what we need so that we can do those things, instead of saying, I have to wait till all of this is taken care of, then I can take care of myself. So instead of pushing harder to get through, we're asking that question, what do I need right now so that I can be present for the next meeting that's coming up? How am I feeling in there? I'm feeling a little anxious and nervous about it. What do I need so I feel more confident about it? Okay, how can I get hold of that? How can I do that? Okay, maybe I need to just go for a walk, quick walk, to shake off the last meeting that sort of was a little difficult so that I can get myself ready. Then how do I then ask for getting that? Like, maybe I need to call the next meeting and say, hey, I need 5 minutes so that I can be present and available to have our discussion because I just had a difficult meeting and I need to shake it off. That's how we communicate. And so that becomes care, right? Self-communication. What's the thoughts in there? Am I in the pothole? Am I telling myself, oh my God, I just don't know how to do this. I'm just not, this is not working for me. Like, or can we be in that other dialogue that says, okay, I recognize I'm thinking that way, but I can figure this out. What do I need so I can figure it out? Like, what is that constructive mindset that becomes curious? Then the next one is the awareness, like the self-awareness, the A. And then the self-responsibility. How can I get hold of that? What is it? Maybe I do need to go for a quick walk or have a sip of water.
Is that a little bit about emotional intelligence, Jeanette? Is that part of
The
it?
A is the emotional intelligence, right? The
A
care.
is the emotional intelligence. Okay.
So the self-communication, the
Mhm.
C, the self-communication, self-awareness, self-responsibility, and self-expression. So all of it becomes emotional intelligence, essentially, which is why self-care is a mindset. But
Got
it's
it.
also a tool, right? So it's not just, so it's a mixture. It's a mixture of all the tools that I've learned throughout my life, between
Mhm.
mindfulness practice. I've been a Buddhist student for 35 years, still am. I learned hypnotherapy. I know how the way we ask questions affect the way we solve the problem. And being a coach, of course, I am an integrative nutrition practitioner, and also learned meta health, which is how our emotional trauma, unresolved emotional trauma, causes physical disease. But what I really learned from that, which was interesting, was how we are inherently like animals, like how our system is responding from a place of reaction and the impact it has on us, which is why we need that power pause to really, really mindfully make a choice about how do we want to think, how do we want to engage, how do we want to react, show up, respond, and how do we communicate what it is that we need. And that's really the care mindset, the care framework that I go through in the book.
So fantastic. It seems really simple to me. I think what you're talking about is, and you've talked about it before, is this
Yeah.
human advantage as we get back to our humanity, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we see, and it's so funny. I mean, we see our humanity in animals. We see our human nature in nature, if that makes sense. And when we
Yeah.
get back to who we are, we can show up differently. Self-care mindset is not an event that happens once over a cup of tea. It is a place. It's really a lifestyle choice to
Well,
show up at your best. Is that right?
it is, but it's really deeper. It's deeper than it's a choice to show up at our best, because that's a cause and effect. We
Okay.
have a mindset. We have a mindset no matter whether we pay attention to it at all,
True.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
what are we doing with that mindset? How do we make that more self-caring? How do we make that work better for us? It's
And
just the same as a company has a culture, whether it's a toxic one, a healthy one, a thriving one, they all have a culture. So it's not like we need a better culture. Okay, but let's look at the one we have. How do we grow the one we have? How do we create change? And how do we do that together? The mindset is the same way. We're recognizing that this mindset is with us all the time. Does it work for us or does it work against us? Does it help us thrive? Does it help us make better choices? So yes, in the end, it shows up in how we show up because it changes who we are. But that's the thing about the self-care mindset. It's actually not what we do. It's who we are. And
The
that's
self-care
where,
mindset is who we are.
yeah.
The self-care mindset is who we are. Wow. Amazing. This is just amazing stuff. Jeanette, the self-care mindset and what you're talking about for changing cultures, how do you change culture? How do you create a culture of growth? The answer is one person at a time. And the self-care mindset, I mean, really what you are talking about, what I'm taking away from this is that if companies want to create change and lead through change and navigate these difficult times, the economy, the all the pressures that are going on, the changes that are happening all around us, it's a laundry list. I don't want to go into it. But that change starts at home. It starts on the inside.
Yep.
And having insight into helping people to access this mindset is really, I think, the power behind the book and the power behind the pause, the power behind your message and your platform. Before I let you go, is there anything else that people need to know about the self-care mindset? And if I could ask you even more specifically, what's something that people who are watching us right now could take away that could make a difference in their day so that they could be better to themselves, better in their relationships, better at work, better human beings?
To answer the first question, yes, the way we show up affects everyone around us, and everyone around us affects how we feel about ourselves, which is one of the reasons why culture is so important, because we're not separate beings. Who we are at home, who we are at work is part of who we are as a whole human being. So that's one thing where it's so important that we start recognizing humanity in the workplace and what does that actually mean, and have the tools to create better conversations, which is what the book is about, right? It's about creating better conversations. And for people who are saying, well, I need to learn how to show up. And this is where it's tricky, right? Because people are like, well, if I change, nothing else changes around me, then what's the point? It's like, it's still a good point because you learn how to navigate the difficulties differently. And it does have a ripple effect. People see it. People see when we're like not reacting, but choosing to pause before we respond. And so I often say to leaders who are asking me, well, how can I make a change? Because I can't ask people, are you taking care of yourself? I said, no, but you can start sharing that you're taking care of yourself, meaning, hey, I need to pause on that before I respond. That in itself creates a ripple effect. Just that small action that we don't feel like we have to just prove ourselves all the time, but that we have to respond and be like, how do I best show up? What is my best contribution here, rather than just trying to figure out what people expect from us or what they want, right? There's a lot of that dynamic going on. I go much deeper into it in the book. But I think the one small big thing is that everything starts with a power pause, because we cannot create change without pausing and having that in reflection, internal reflective mindset of observe what's going on in my mind, what's going on in my heart, my emotions, what are my reactions and responses, what are my behaviors, and how do I communicate that? Without having a relationship to that, there is no change. And so the book is really about tools. It's really about giving people frameworks and questions and very, very direct ways that they can start creating this kind of change for themselves, and therefore in how they engage and interact with other people and make decisions in the world.
So powerful. And you've said it before, it's in large part, it's about asking better questions. What would you say to people who say, this sounds like mindfulness?
It is mindfulness. It is born out of
more than
mindfulness.
that, isn't it? I mean,
well, yeah,
it's more than that.
it's mindfulness in a lot of expanded ways, right? Because I'm including what I've learned in hypnotherapy. I'm including what I learned as a coach. I'm including what I learned as being a human being in this life, having lost my parents, having gone through divorce, having been fired from my job, having had to change from one country to another country. Like let's just say that I feel like my life has been full of change that I've had to figure out how to navigate and still keep my center, keep my ground, not lose myself. And this idea of keep coming back to who we truly are and actually learning what that means, because I think a lot of us are even questioning that. Like, who am I? Like, I think a lot of people get confused when you're like challenging this know yourself, right? Because we know our behaviors, but we might not know what it is that drives our behaviors. And then when we pause for just a little bit, we can connect with that. We can connect with what we care about. We can connect more with what it is that matters right now versus just reacting to what's urgent. And so those are some of the reasons why, when you ask me why are people hiring me to come and help them with their companies, is because we have become companies and fear-driven cultures that are just reacting and not actually solving the right problem, which is, how do we create impact? How do we create change? How do we do work that matters? That's really the problem we're trying to solve in our society today, isn't it? Not just how do we survive.
Doing work that matters, that really stands out for me.
Yeah.
You know, Jeanette, you're doing work that matters. You're
Thank
helping
you.
people to find themselves. You're helping people to access that identity, and you're helping people to see what you've had to discover through your challenges, the challenges that you've faced, but also the learning,
Yeah.
the time that you have taken to invest in yourself, to explore these new ways of thinking, and to have the opportunity to take one of these powerful pauses. I wonder, for the folks who are with us today and who are watching this, what might that mean to take that kind of pause and to access that self-care mindset? Because it's a domino effect. If you,
Yes.
like you were talking about, when you take that pause, others, they sense it, and they find almost perhaps that they can maybe give themselves permission to do so. And certainly I think that's what your keynotes and your trainings help people to see, not just that a new way of looking at things is possible, but also the freedom to access it, to access that identity. I mean, am I getting that right?
Yeah. Yeah. And a big part of the pause is to listen, right? The pause is really taking that moment to listen. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people think that a power pause means I need to take more pauses and breaks throughout the day. And it may mean that. It may
Are you
mean
listening
that
are you listening to yourself, or what are you listening for, Jeanette? I'm just so curious. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm so
yeah,
curious about that.
yeah. So it could be that you need to step away and take 5 minutes because you're just you've exhausted your attention battery, right? We can only pay attention for so long at a time before we start to mind wander. So recognizing that is just really part of, like, this is human physiology. This is just how the mind works, and let's just respect that rather than abuse it, right? And then the other thing is, so how do we use that pause to listen to ourselves, to listen to others, and to listen to what is the problem we're trying to solve? So there's 3 processes that I go through in the book. One is, how do we listen to ourselves, connect better with ourselves, and the physical pause. Like that physical, hey, am I just being stiff right now? Am I being thirsty? Am I being hangry? Am I like foggy minded because I haven't been drinking enough water today? And am I not paying attention here because I'm just exhausted and I haven't taken a real break for 4 hours in a row here? Like, what's going on, right? That's that physical pause. Or am I just really running on survival mode right now? Am I really just pushing my limits here and just being reactive, right? That's physical pause. Do I need to balance do I need my nervous system to come down? Because what happens when we're running on survival mode and cortisol is hijacking our brain, the question we're asking ourselves is, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And we continuously look for problems. We continuously look for the potholes. We continuously look for what's not working. And that's how we create this very toxic work environment, right? And so that physical pause can actually help, even just a physical pause. That's why if you saw the Microsoft Human Factor Lab study last year, where they showed what happens to the mind if you just pause for 5 minutes between meetings, and they basically saw how your whole nervous system calms down. Your brain actually starts to function again. You're not overheating. Versus if you're just running back to back to back to back to back to back, your mind basically just starts not being. It's kind of like it's overheating. It turns red in there. If you saw the you see the study, it's basically the brain starts turning red, and then just a 5-minute pause between meetings, it starts turning blue again. And so this idea that we actually need these physical pauses, and they may be a break away for 5 minutes, yes, and those are enough to just calm the nervous system down. And I don't know about you, but I have been victim of a lot of angry people that are just angry because they're under pressure. And it's not fair, right? It's not fair that we solve problems under pressure to such an extent that we're just lashing out at people. And so that's the physical pause. Like, what do I need so that I'm not in that survival mode mindset? Then the next pause is the emotional pause, where we listen inside and say, what am I feeling? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling nervous? Am I feeling confident? How am I feeling in there? And using that as information rather than just shoving it aside. Because a lot of times we just shove it aside and be like, not now, right? Instead of saying,
Gotcha.
is there something here I can use as information that would help me solve the right problem, right?
Wow.
And then the next pause, and that's also the pause where we start connecting with people, that emotional pause where we start, our cortisol levels come down, serotonin starts to rise, and we start wondering, do I belong? Am I, how do I connect with people? And now we're starting to create a culture where we care about each other, right? Now we're starting to create that culture where we're more inclusive, where we're like, hey, do I belong? How do we connect? How do we communicate? And so that's next level, right? Where we can start communicating with more curiosity and kindness, right? And then we can go to the next level where the mind goes into what's called the smart brain, right? Where we start being constructive, where we start becoming collaborative. That's the growth mindset, where we're starting to actually solve the right problem, where we start saying, that I learned from that pothole. What did we learn from that? And how can we use it to get to where we're going? Why does it matter? What is it we care about? How do we get there? What are the steps? Now we're in that constructive, collaborative mindset. And that's what I call the mental pause, where we're like going, all right, how am I using this? What do we do with this? And so these three, so it's a process. So even just the first pause will create change. But the three pauses that basically go throughout the book, and then how we have that inner dialogue, changing the questions we're asking ourselves, we start actually moving through change and growth, both ourselves, but also how we connect, communicate, and collaborate with other people. And therefore, then how do we make better decisions that are more in alignment with what it is we're trying to achieve? And my point actually is that all of this, once you kind of learn to use the tools, which will take a little time, yes, but once you start learning the tools, you're actually cutting down on the time you spent in the pothole.
Wow. Powerful stuff.
So
it,
that was a long.
That's a lot to unpack. But I think the takeaway is the outcome is that there is a better way.
Yes.
And I think there's a bit of a deception or a misperception that we think that what looks like mental toughness is something to be desired.
Yeah.
And you said at the beginning of our conversation, being resolute and knowing who you are, that's very important, and sticking to your guns, and that sort of thing is important. But it's really just seeing that other possibilities exist, and those possibilities show up in the pause, not at that place where we're trying to use grit or willpower, because willpower is a powerful thing, but it's not sustainable.
Right.
And the thing that I like about the self-care mindset is you're talking about something that is sustainable. It's not a moment in time. It's not it's let's see, now it's time for me to meditate or something. It is a state of mind.
Yes.
That changes and shifts and opens up possibility. And the thing that I think that's so exciting about it, and I think that's probably very exciting for your clients, is that collaboration, connection shows up from this place of self-care, which is kind of an interesting combination, right? We focus on ourselves to allow us to focus on others.
Yeah.
So I think that is fascinating. Why is it that when we take better care of ourselves, we're able to take better care of those around us?
Well, for the simple reason that when you're not feeling great, you're super hyper-focused on yourself. So it's a bit of a paradox as well, right? Because if we're not feeling great because we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not really available for other people, because This is the hard thing to say. When we don't take care of ourselves, we're actually more self-absorbed.
Interesting.
Because it becomes always about, what do I need? I'm not safe. Like, because we're in that survival mode. Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? It's all about us. It's not actually about creating connection. And that's
And
why I
you
always
can't really
say that-
create that connection or step outside of yourself if you don't have that sense of safety. I mean, that self-care mindset that that makes it okay to have whatever human experience you're going through. I mean, like you were talking about launching the book, you're going to have some thinking around that because you want it to do well and all that kind of stuff. And I know that it will, by the way. I know that it will. But when we set that thinking aside and recognize that it's there from that place of pausing, we see new options, we see new opportunities, we see new conversations, maybe like this one, to tell people what's on offer with the self-care mindset. Jeanette, I'm super excited for you and for this book and where it might lead, not just for you, but for the people who are going to come into contact with it. Because there are a lot of pressures out there and a lot of challenges. But the bottom line is how you show up in the world. What is your state of mind? What is that mindset that's going to create the most, where you're going to show up at your best? And I hope that doesn't sound like a cliche, because companies talk about that, showing up at your best at work. Oh,
Right.
It sounds like a cliche, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I think, it's that part of, like, what does my best self actually look like in this moment? Right. And so that it doesn't again become this destination that we're trying to achieve and we're supposed to look a certain way. But right now, how do I feel at my best right now? Okay, well, we started this morning. I knew I needed to get a shake so that I wasn't hungry. I knew I needed to get some water.
I still have the shakes. As a little, no, I'm just kidding.
I'm talking about that kind of a shake. Where
Yes, a good nutritional
shake. So I was like, I basically was like, all right, I got 15 minutes. What do I need so that I can be at my best for this? Right. I chose to have Maya in here. Normally I don't have her in here when I speak. And it almost created a disaster because I know I need to focus when she starts moving around. But then that's like, hey, I'm having a conversation with Chris. I know he loves Maya. We can have Maya in here, even if she starts to move around. Granted,
well, here's the beautiful thing. Well, what's happening back there? What's happening?
No, thankfully she didn't pull down the whole studio when she tried to walk through the curtain.
Well, here's the wonderful thing. When we come to a conversation from a place of self-care and from a place of service, we see things in new ways. And sometimes even when the dog sneaks behind the curtain, guess what? We figure it out. We show up, we sort things out, but not if our minds are cloudy. Not if we're in one of those potholes. A self-care mindset helps people and corporations to make big change, starting one person and one conversation at a time. Yes. Jeanette, how can people find out more about you and find out more about the book? What are some resources that you can offer to the folks who are with us?
I would say go directly to my website, JeanetteBronée.com. Like, I think I'm the only one in the world with this name. You'll find me everywhere social happens, almost. I'm not that active on all social channels, but I am there. And sure. I do respond to messages and outreach and LinkedIn and all of that kind of stuff. So what I'm focused on is to give people a way and some tools that I have learned through many, many years. And so part of what you will find on my social channels is some of that context.
Well, I want to say thank you, Jeanette, and thank you for watching as we begin this journey, finding easier. And today, talking about the self-care mindset, a mindset, or a state of mind, if you will, that creates greater performance, greater collaboration, greater connection. I am grateful for the connection with Jeanette Bronée, and I want to thank you so much, my friend, for sharing your story, for sharing your voice, for helping others to connect with their humanity. That's that human advantage that you talk about, and that is really at the center of the book. I think this is a story for our times. I think it's a message that people need to hear and they need to access. And I'm always grateful for an opportunity to access new ideas from you. So thank you very much for being with me today. And I will give you the last word, final thoughts for the folks who are with us.
Thank you. Yes. To your point, Chris, we are not, being human, us, all of us, we're not a problem to solve. We are an opportunity to harness because we're awesome. Being human is a gift, even if it doesn't always feel like it.
And so are you. Thank you, Jeanette, for your thoughts, your ideas. Thank you for everyone who's been with us on this journey. And let's hope that as you access the self-care mindset, find new ways to be kinder to yourself and to those around you, you'll access the kind of connection, collaboration, and the themes of the book that we've been talking about here today. And as you show up differently, that's the first step in finding easier. My name is Chris Westfall. On behalf of my guest, Jeanette Bronée, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
May the pause be with you.